the 1990s, creature features saw a mild resurgence thanks to the immense success of Jurassic Park. Suddenly, Hollywood was interested in remaking old classics, including the 1949 King Kong clone, Mighty Joe Young. Produced by RKO Studios in partner with Walt Disney Pictures, the remake was released in 1998, the same year as TriStar's Godzilla, and before Universal's King Kong remake, which was then in pre-production. It ended up underperforming, giving Universal cold feet on King Kong, until Peter Jackson came in and resurrected the project in 2005. This is a shame, because those who give this new Mighty Joe Young a chance will find an unremarkable but no less charming family film that all ages can enjoy. After both Jill Young and an infant gorilla she named Joe witnessed the death of their mothers at the hands of a poacher, they promise to always protect each other, while the poacher swears revenge for the loss of his thumb and trigger finger. 12 years later, Jill and Joe, who has grown to be 15 feet tall, are discovered living in solitude together by conservationist Gregg O'Hara, who, knowing Joe's existence will soon draw poachers, convinces Jill to bring the supersized gorilla to a wildlife refuge in the United States. At first, things run relatively smoothly, but when their mother's killer resurfaces to claim an old prize, it becomes a mad dash to get Jill and Joe back home before it's too late.
Have you forgotten this?
Mighty Joe Young is one of those remakes that could be said to be an improvement over the original. While the 1949 film was mostly content with turning the final act of King Kong into a feature-length film, the remake takes the same story and goes in a different and arguably more compelling direction. Gone is the showbiz angle, replaced with an environmental and conservationist theme that gives the story and characters a lot more heart. It follows most of the same dramatic beats, but within this new context there is more at stake, making the film feel less set-piece driven than the original. The result is a feel-good film that, while certainly not the most original, makes up for it with solid direction, likable characters, and timeless special effects, all in service of a positive message that ought to resonate with most audience members. Much like the original, the star of Mighty Joe Young is Joe himself, and also like the original, the effects used to bring him to life are quite impressive. Stop motion has been replaced with a combination of practical and visual effects, and the two work together almost seamlessly, bringing Joe to life with such a sense of weight and realism that you never question the magic behind it. Life-size props, suitmation, and animatronics by Rick Baker are all used to wildly successful effect, allowing for the type of real in-camera interaction with the actors that you don't see anymore. And in the few times computer graphics are used, it's done so well that it never draws attention to itself. All of this makes Mighty Joe Young one of those rare films whose effects haven't aged a bit, which is a remarkable feat that deserves more recognition.
Joe, drop him.
Where Mighty Joe Young undoubtedly improves substantially over the original is the characters. Charlize Theron's Jill Young makes for a more appealing protagonist, turned from a wide-eyed, frustratingly naive farm girl into a fiercely driven and independent survivalist whose tragic backstory is linked directly to Joe. This strengthens their emotional bond, which makes for a stronger and more engaging narrative. The always reliable Bill Paxton as Gregg O'Hara is also a much improved leading man over his equivalent from the original, not only because his romantic interest in Jill has more substance, but because his character is a direct driver of the plot, as opposed to just tagging along, and his role as a conservationist makes him inherently sympathetic. The film also benefits from having a human antagonist to root against in the form of poacher Andrei Strasser, played by Rade Šerbedžija, who gives the character a charmingly slimy persona. He's an utter scumbag, and thus the perfect villain for this type of film.
Just what exactly are you aiming at?
Perhaps the most standout element of Mighty Joe Young, though, is the score by James Horner, which incorporates culturally appropriate instrumentation and vocals in such a way that perfectly captures the heart and soul of the story. It wonderfully accommodates the family-friendly cheese factor that was commonly found in Disney films from the 90s. The ending especially really leans heavily into this cheese, which may get some to roll their eyes, but it's appropriate for this type of story and the demographic it is trying to appeal to. It may be controversial to say, but Mighty Joe Young is a better, more thematically cohesive, and emotionally engaging film than the original that inspired it. The story, while similar, differs substantially in ways that improve on its concept. The characters are more likable and proactive, especially Joe, who benefits from over 40 years of advancements in special effects. He is a wonderful cinematic creation, a creature whose existence you will absolutely buy into and sympathize with. The film is certainly not perfect. None of its dramatic beats will surprise you, and in some moments it gets so overtly saccharine that you just may wince. But as a family film that can be enjoyed by everyone, it succeeds, and is well worth your time, especially if you've got kids and are looking for something you can enjoy together. For more reviews and opinions on all things kaiju, subscribe and stay tuned to Up From the Depths.